Devlin, Untamed. The platform.
iOS, it's only sport. Martin Devlin, Lachlan War. This is the podcast of today's live show on the platform every afternoon. The only independent daily sports show in New Zealand. You've got to download the platform app. You've got to subscribe to Platform Plus, $3 a week. Keeps us in gainful employment. My name is Martin Devlin, Lachlan War alongside. Talking sport today. Black Caps, yeah. Well, bowling them out for 172. But we're going to win the second test, and all we've got to do is get past 172. And then we lost 5 wickets for 55. Good Lord. Simon Doull all over that for us. Premier League, another big bunch of fixtures today. Aston Villa, 14 wins in a row at home. But more important than that is they beat Man City for the first time in 10 years. And more important than that is there's now a gap between Arsenal, Liverpool and Manchester City. Villa, in fact, jump over Manchester City. We've got a title race on. The White Ferns creating unwanted history, just like the All Blacks have done over the last few years, losing for the first time against Pakistan and then losing a series for the first time against Pakistan at home. The first two T20s lost. Third one is in Queenstown on Saturday. Hannah Rowe joining us. The results have been underwhelming all year. So what is the team? What is the internal discussions taking place within the team? How is this ship going to be rewrited? Jason Costigan, at Costo Jason is his Twitter handle. He's in Morocco, of all places. He says rugby league is alive and well there. What? Well, he can explain that to us. What is more chance of happening? Tide 5. We got a podcast. First, as always, we say tablets in hand, gather my flock. It is time for a sermon. The football Ferns are the worst national sporting side in this country, and the coach deserves to be sacked. Let's go to the mountaintop.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
Come on, New Zealand football, do the right thing here. Remove Jitka Klimkova as football Ferns coach. She has clearly failed. This year, for example, 16 games played, 2 wins, 5 goals scored in those 16 games, and 2 of those were against Vietnam. But of course, you won't remove her because like every other woke-ass, spineless New Zealand sports organisation, you're actually governed not by yourselves and your board, but by 1 or 2 screeching female sports journalists and an irrational fraidy cat fear of a few social media trolls writing faceless Facebook posts. This is meant to be a professional administration. This is meant to be a professional sports team that we're meant to respect, which in turn means that you are both judged on results, performance, achievements. This isn't some gender equity charity that you're running. This is professional sport. Well, isn't it? I mean, the players demand to be treated like professional athletes, which means it is your obligation to treat them and their coach then as such. Any other coach, if it wasn't a woman here in New Zealand, would have been removed from the position. So what about it, New Zealand football? At the very least, surely you're going to conduct another Danny Hayes-style review, aren't you, Mr. CEO Pragnell? Surely you're going to, at the very least, spend the same amount of money to interview all the Ferns players, find a couple who got told off at training and the coach bullied us, and then sack her like you sacked Danny Hay, aren't you? But no, we know that isn't going to happen. We all know that. Why not? Because this is the age in New Zealand of positive gender discrimination. Because outside of the Warriors and the Breakers, no New Zealand sports side actually operates like a professional sports team or a franchise. And operates like a franchise and a professional sports team should and would do. New Zealand football just don't have the cojones to handle the perceived backlash. A few screaming female PR agents masquerading as journalists and some nasty Twitter comments. That's what you're afraid of? But this is the truth. That's why they won't do it. That's why CEO Pragnell won't comment. He won't take calls. He won't make a statement. He won't answer any questions about it. What other coach of any other team in any sport anywhere in the world would survive a record in a calendar year of played 16, won 2, scoring 5 goals? And it gets worse. Last year was a similar effort. Played 12, won 2, drew 3, lost 7, goals for 6. In fact, Jitka's track record since she took over and got a 6-year contract as the Football Ferns coach. Get this, played 32, won 5, drawn 6, lost 21, goals for 15, goals against 55. And she's still got 4 years left in the job. It is an absolute farce. New Zealand football, you have no choice. You have to rip up her contract. This is a results-driven business. The numbers don't lie. It really does not get any simpler or clearer than that. Santa's pig!
Devlin.
What do you want? We want information. Information. You won't get it.
The platform.
Locked it. Sports news headlines before we go to Rahul Patil and talk about the fact that none of us can hold a bloody bat, mate.
Well, yeah, I will start off with that. I'll start off with the Black Caps and the first day in the books of the second test against Bangladesh in Dhaka.
Dhaka.
What's the name of the stadium? Shuri Bangala National Cricket Stadium. That's what the stadium's called in Dhaka. Looking pretty damn good. At one point, I think Bangladesh were like 47 for 4. That's at least when I was tuning in after I did my grocery shopping yesterday. And we bowled them out for 172.
And I was going, take that dishes, we're going to score 250. And when the...
Boy, we're hard, aren't we, if we're celebrating beating Bangladesh. Jeez.
I was getting all excited about it until we started batting.
Yeah. 55 for 5 at stumps are the Black Caps.
Yeah.
Through 12.4 overs. We've lost 5 wickets. Our openers, Tom Latham, Devon Conway, combining for 15 off 34. Kane Williamson is our top scorer so far with 13. Henry Nicholls, the calls for him to be dropped
not age, mate. Not age.
Are going to turn into absolute roars. 1 from 10. And his wicket was swinging and swashbuckling at a shot.
Yeah, it was
he totally misjudged, and it was caught. Daryl Mitchell is not out. He's on 12. Glenn Phillips is on 5. He's with him. We still have Mitch Santner, Cole Jameson, Tim Southey and Ajaz Patel to come. Not good for the Black Caps at all. Premier League this morning, a mass of games that were on, including both mine and Martin's teams. Liverpool beating Sheffield United 2-0 on the road. By far and away the better side, but we really couldn't find the back of the net. The second goal coming in stoppage time at the end. Fulham smacking Nottingham Forest 5-0. Bournemouth beating Palace 2-0. Brighton beating Brentford 2-1. Aston Villa with the victory of the day, shall we say. 1-0 over Man City. Man City are now 6 points off the top of the table. And there's no games in hand or anything. They've all played 15 games, that top 4. They're sitting in 4th, 6 points off Arsenal. Brilliant, isn't it?
Great for the neutral who wants a team other than them
and
to win.
great for us who hate Man City.
There you go.
Yeah. And Manchester United, Martin's team, 2-1. Hard victory over Chelsea. Staunch backs against the wall. Harry Maguire named Premier League Player of the Month because apparently for all of November there was no one in the Premier League better than Harry Maguire.
Who voted for that?
His form's gone up, to be fair to him.
Sure, but I mean, that's a very low bar set when he's your best player in the whole of the Premier League.
Yeah, very low bar. Senior Wellington Phoenix players, women's players that is, insist the club does not have a culture problem, despite comments from former midfielder Chloe Knott, who shocked fans when she walked away from the club last week. Veteran goalkeeper Riley Foster said, "I've played at the top level, I've played at Liverpool, I've played with Celtic, and I've experienced some of the top, and the stuff that is going on here is better than what I experienced there. There are not many clubs that can compete with the facilities and the staff and the type of style we are playing." Well, you would say that, Riley Foster. I mean, you're not going to come out and say, yeah, it's rubbish. Everyone's mean to each other. We have to go down to the beach and play. We don't actually have a field. I mean, yeah. Anyway, British tennis star Emma Raducanu was returning to the ASB Classic after being forced to withdraw from this year's event when she rolled her ankle on the indoor courts at Stanley Street. Then she came out and complained about the quality of the facilities, didn't she? But Emma Raducanu coming back to the ASB Classic early next year, that'd be great. A rugby union player has elected rugby league to go to rugby league. We saw a lot of league players at least being touted to go to rugby union earlier this year, but now it's a leaguey. He's gone to union. A union. He's gone to league. Jeez, I'm really mucking this up.
Got to keep up.
Wallabies wing Mark Nawanga-Nitawase signing with the Sydney Roosters in the NRL. The Roosters with their salary sombrero adding yet another player. The Silver Ferns will be without captain Emilia Rani-Canacio for next month's Netball Nations Cup in the UK. She's requested to be left out of the series at the end of January. That will see the Silver Ferns face Australia, Uganda and hosts England. Luis Rubiales, the Spanish football president, has been accused of inappropriately touching England players on the same podium that he allegedly sexually assaulted Jenny Hermoso after the Women's World Cup final. This according to the Football Association chair. Rubiales responded by calling Debbie Hewitt a hypocrite and accused her of doing of doing her position as FA chair a disservice. The claims that have been revealed among new documents released by the world governing body FIFA to support their disciplinary panel's decision to ban Ruby Ellis from any involvement in football for 3 years. Long considered one of the most influential and formidable figures in Australia, Alan Jones, former Wallabies coach and successful radio host, is now facing accusations of using his position of power to prey on multiple young men engaging in indecent assaults and inappropriate behaviour without their consent. The renowned broadcaster, 82 years of age, vehemently denies the allegations. The Sydney Morning Herald reporting a former 2GB employee who claims to have been a victim of repeated assaults by Jones emphasised the severity of the allegations, saying, "What he did to me was a criminal offence. He cannot die without people knowing what he's done." That's what's making news, Martin.
Devlin.
You better believe it!
The platform.
Righto. Black Caps getting towelled by Bangladesh after losing the first test by 150, trailing this run 117 runs with just 5 first innings wickets in hand. We can't bat, we can't play spin. And that is essentially why we can't win. Simon Doull. Dooley, let's talk cricket, mate. We've got so much to talk about. For a start, Bangladesh, and when you have a pitch that turns like that within a couple of hours, mate, what a minefield.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? But I don't mind that. You know what New Zealand produce when we're at home, and they're green ones, and we often wrap the Bangladesh players on the fingers, on the helmets. You know, they go away sort of screaming and crying half the time when they come down to New Zealand because of the hard, fast nature of our surfaces. And we go there, we've just got to be better, and we have not been good enough. And it also, you know, what it does say is that our spinners aren't quite up to the mark all the time, because they just don't bowl on enough surfaces like this, whereas theirs are. And I'm not saying we need, you know, pitches in New Zealand that turn from day one, but we've got to have some surfaces across the country that do actually provide spin, so that we learn how to play it better, and we actually learn how to bowl it better as well in those types of conditions. And, you know, if we don't start doing that, we'll always have trouble going to the subcontinent. And, you know, India's been a nightmare for us in the last 10, 15 years. And it's proving that way in Bangladesh at the moment. So fair play to them. You know, they've played better than us at the moment, and we look like going down in the second one as well.
Oh, mate, this will be over within 3 days by the look of it. And I totally agree with you. I mean, this is what home court advantage is, isn't it? Look, in the West Indies during the 80s and the 90s, what kind of pitch did you get over there, Simon?
Yep, you got a hard, shiny one. I reckon you could see yourself in it. It was almost like a mirror finish in those surfaces. You turn up to Sabina Park in Jamaica, and they said you could basically see yourself, see your own reflection in the pitch. It was that hard, fast, and shiny, and they just belted the crap out of teams, and rightly so. And, you know, as I say, home advantage is home advantage. We play on whatever we want to at home and in test matches, and I have no issue with what Bangladesh are doing, as long as it's not substandard, and I don't think it is. Then you know, you just got to be better at playing spin and bowling spin, and we just haven't quite been up to the mark as yet.
I've started to actually feel quite sorry now for Henry Nicholls, and watching him go out to the wicket yesterday, I was thinking, what's the point taking your bat? I mean, you might as well send me out there. You just go out there with your feet and just try and kick the ball away, Henry, because he just looks as though he doesn't have a clue.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? When you get into that situation, into that sort of rut where you just don't know. You don't know where your next run's coming from. You're not sure how to score your next run, and your head's sort of all fuzzy. It's such a horrible, horrible place to be as any sportsman. And, you know, he's just going through one of those trots at the moment where it's not easy. But, hey, he's not the only one. I think back through that entire World Cup, barring one innings, I think Tom Latham had. I mean, he's had a pretty poor time of it in the last few months, Tom Latham, and you know, he's not the only one. Conway hasn't been that great at times either. So, you know, there's questions to ask around a few, to be honest.
I want to ask you a whole lot of questions about cricket this year, because we've only got a couple of weeks to go before we take some time off, and I know that you do as well. And I was just kind of thinking, okay, well, since we're on Test cricket, let's talk about that. I go back to that Basin Reserve Test against England. For everything that you love about Test cricket, I mean, the best series of the year has got to be the Ashes, and you were over there fortunate enough to be there, you know, to actually see that live. But when you talk about Test cricket and you remember those particular matches, you got to say it's in a healthy place, isn't it? For those of us who love it, I mean.
Yeah, and I think even those that are maybe on the verge or you know, have grown up a little bit more enjoying T20, have enjoyed T20 in the last few years, I think a good test match is still something that grips you to the edge of your sofa. And that's the one thing that, the short ball format, because it comes and goes so quickly, and a series is done and forgotten. I think that's one thing that test matches do. And I really got a first-hand experience of what Ashes means to England and what it means to world cricket while I was in England this summer, to be honest, because it grips them. It really does grip them. They live, they eat, they breathe every ball. And when you get a series like that, when you get test matches like you're talking about, the New Zealand-England one at the Basin, that's just so good to watch, Marty. And because it can ebb and flow so much throughout the course of 5 days, 4 days, even 3 days, if that's all it is, that's what draws you in. And you get sucked into that, the ups and downs, the highs and lows of a test match. And I think there's very few sporting contests that can do that to you over such a long period of time. And that's why I still love it. I still love watching it. And I think that's why the players still love playing it, for those moments, for those series as well.
Simon, is it as much, it drains you emotionally as much as it does physically, mentally and everything else, but you actually must go through such highs and lows over 5 days. There'll be times where you're thinking, my God, this ball is on a string for me. There'll be times where they're smacking it back over your head. You go, God, I wish I was anywhere else. So I love that as much as anything else because it tests your character, doesn't it?
Well, that's why it's called a test. And it's not just a test of your skill, your ability. It is your mental fortitude, your character, your ability to bounce back from one session to another, from one spell to another, to find an opportunity in a test match. And it might just be one small opportunity where you can maybe garner a little bit of an advantage for your team or for your teammates. And there's so many things that ride on it. And I think that's the beauty of it. It is a genuine test. And that's why we also see so many players that just don't want to play it because it's tough, it's hard, and they choose the easier options. And the easier options are now short-form cricket. They're T20 cricket. It's 50-over cricket only, or T20 cricket only, or white ball cricket only. Test match cricket is damn hard, to quote a great radio sport of the old days quote. It's damn hard.
It's damn hard, mate.
But that's it. And it is. And it does. It tests everything, every little sinew of your body.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. Lachlan,
We need to talk.
we need to play
We need to talk.
a game called What is More Chance of Happening, where I present two scenarios and then you tell me what is more chance of happening, the first or the second.
Next!
New Zealand recover to beat Bangladesh in the second test and square the series, or Man City don't win the title. They're 6 points behind. 15 games gone.
What's got more chance of happening? Mm-hmm. Man City don't win the title.
Oh, come on.
From that opening day in the second test, what suggests that we're going to win the test? Not draw, win.
Yeah. Well, look, we can't get a draw because no one is going to be able to bat long enough to last 5 days in this. This test is over by the third day. The only way that we can win it is if somehow we can claw close to, as Rahul says, 30 or 40 behind them, roll them all out for under 100, and then Kane Williamson gets a century. That is the only way it's going to happen.
Next!
What is more chance of happening, though? That scenario does happen, or the football Ferns score a goal,
Win.
or New Zealand football come to their senses and say, listen,
No.
whoever signed a 6-year deal with you,
There's more chance.
there's got to be a clause in the contract that says...
Stop it. There's more chance the Black Caps win the second test. New Zealand football are going to keep Jitka Klimkova in the job until the World Cup when her contract runs out.
And why do you think this is? If
Because she's a woman.
Because she's a woman.
She's a woman.
That is why.
That's why.
Because New Zealand football do not want to face the flack from a couple of screaming New Zealand female sports journalists, screeching female sports journalists, screeching female sports journalists. Isn't that the truth? And how lame-ass of a sports administration that is the case. I mean, I've accused New Zealand Rugby of this, haven't I, this year as well, of living in fear and being governed by social media response. How can you run an organisation, any business like this? This woman is clearly failing as a coach. Those results say it all.
Any other sport or any other competition in football, she gets sacked.
Well, football is the most brutal sport in the world for sacking a coach. You get sacked when you don't win.
Do you remember last year when
And this is she's now been in charge for the end of 2021.
Yeah, October
all
2021.
of last year, all of this year. So this isn't new. You take out that win against Norway, and this is the most pathetic, underperforming, embarrassing New Zealand sports side that we put out in any sport.
Yeah. How many? Is it 5 matches that we've won under her?
5.
Now, I know that one of those matches was in 2021 because it was like her second or third in charge against
beat
Canada.
South Korea. 2-0.
We won a game. So there's no argument to say that, first couple of years were tough, but we've won some games now. No. One of them was won very early on,
That's
and
right.
only 2 have been won this year.
So last year, we beat Mexico 1-0, the Philippines 2-1. Well, we lost to the Philippines at the World Cup this year, probably the worst result under her tenure because a draw would have put us in
the worst
result. And this year, we've beaten Vietnam
in a warm-up.
Scored 2 goals of the 5 that we've scored this year, and then beat Norway. That Norway result is the only reason that she retains her job. The only reason that she retains
And that's starting to look like a Japan beating South Africa in 2015 Rugby
Doesn't
World
it?
Cup kind of thing.
Very
isn't
much
it?
so. Very much so.
Such an outlier.
What is more chance of happening, though, Lachlan?
Next.
New Zealand, with a rearguard action, rescue the first innings, go on to bowl Bangladesh out, bat well in the second innings and win the second test. Or the Commonwealth Games does go ahead somewhere in 2026.
Ooh, they're both unlikely, but they're both also possible at the same time. I'd say this.
Here we go, ladies. He's going to say it. He's going to say it.
Just quickly, who organises the Commonwealth Games?
The Commonwealth Games organising people.
So it's not the IOC. It's not like an arm of theirs.
They have their own version of.
We never hear from them, do we?
Who are they?
They're a bit like Sansa.
That's it.
They're just kind
Do
of
they
there.
even exist?
Yeah.
There's an office with a piece of A4 paper on it saying back in 5 minutes, and that
It's
was
been there
put
for
there
7 years. There's more chance that the Black Caps win the second test.
I believe so.
Yeah.
I don't think the Commonwealth Games are coming back. I think that's going to be.
There's 3 hosts for these games that have pulled out.
Yeah.
One was to Durban, it was taken off them, but all for financial reasons. And then who was it that's meant to host 2030?
Alberta.
Yeah, and they've pulled out as well for 2030.
They pulled out as well for 2030.
So there's no host for the next 2.
No, and the Gold Coast, you remember, hosted it in 2018, people, and they reckon it's still going to cost them $700 million if they hosted it again. Tokyo, do you know what the bill was for the Olympic Games a couple of years back?
No.
$13 billion to host that.
How much did they make?
No, that's what it cost them.
Yeah.
That's overdraft.
Oh, so that's the loss.
That's what they get left with. So after all the glory hosting the Olympic Games...
So actually the expense was more.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Oh, my God.
One more to go before we go to the news. What is more chance of happening then? New Zealand beat Bangladesh in the second test and square the series. Or Eric Ten Hag ends the season as Man United manager.
In all seriousness, I think he will. I'd be surprised if they sacked him mid-year. Only because I don't... Look, so obviously the Glazers are the owners and they have the ultimate power. But there's a new guy who's like your head of football. There's a guy who stepped away, but there's a new guy who's the CEO or the head of football. I don't know his name. Or there's going to be a new one because the one before only just resigned or stepped away or something. Anyway, look, I think it's really dumb when you look at the so-called progress that your club made last year to then, after a really hard start to the season and a whole lot of players bitching about the manager, who have done this for the last 3 or 4 managers, to then just sack him mid-year and think that's going to solve it. I don't know. I don't think it's going to solve anything. I don't think they're surely not that dumb.
Blah, 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 blah. There's no one better to talk Premier League football with than Miles Davis, who I've known for 25 years, West Ham fan. Spoke to him this morning. He's watching a bit of Pony on the Cream. That's watching a bit of crap, Pony and Trap, crap on the Cream and Jelly, the telly. Then he said he was off down the rub for a pigs. Well, that's off to the rub-a-dub, the pub for a pig's ears beers. Keep up, people. Miles is old school. He was running with the West Ham back in the 80s. I'll let him explain. Before we even get into what happened today, you're not playing Spurs tomorrow. Now, this is one of the more pleasant rivalries that you enjoyed during your younger days as a West Ham hooligan, isn't it?
I wasn't a hooligan. I just, as a West Ham, you just are not allowed to run if anything happens.
Right.
With West Ham, we don't run.
We don't run.
If you do, your own mob will catch up with you and you'll get a bigger item than if you'd just stayed in the first place.
Were there one or two rumbly occasions with the Yid
many,
faithful?
Many,
There were?
mate. I'll bore you with some. But yeah, I know. I mean, every away game, it was like going on manoeuvres in enemy territory. Like Leeds was you go. The train goes right past Ellen Road, right? There was an empty paddock between the railway line and there. They could have easily put a platform up and you could just stroll to the ground.
Yes.
But they take you 3 miles into town. You have to go on underpasses, back street, the whole bloody lot. Bricks getting thrown at you. It's just... Yeah, no, I mean, there's so many miserable. Sunderland was a horrible place to go as well. Cardiff, Swansea, there's so many.
Well, what about the time at
mate.
St James's Park with that beautiful photo on the back page of the Sun, and there is you, and there is Cass Pennant, who was an ICF man, and there was, I think, a petrol bomb that exploded.
Bomb.
Yes,
yeah,
and you were warming your hands up on the flames, is what the photo says.
Oh, mate. But that game, like the first 20 minutes of that game, we were in the corner up at the Leeds' end, but all in a corner, all the West Ham fans, and we were getting pelted with coins and thing. And then this dart came flying over, and I bent down and thought, right, you swines, I'm going to chuck it back. So I bent down to pick up, and as I stood up to throw it back, there was a copper there. I went, "Oh, officer, I was just going to give it back to you. Would you like to do it?" And then after 20 minutes, the thing came over. It's a milk bowl of petrol and lit with a newspaper in it. And it landed about 3 yards in front of me and blew up. And there was a couple of guys there that went up their trouser legs and set them on fire. But we all jackets and stamping on them. I'm sure they got hurt more by the stamping, putting it out, than they did by the flames. They kept us in for about an hour after the game because we were just seething. We just wanted the thing. And the next year, there was a leaflet went round the home game before we went away to Newcastle, saying, right, let's all go up there and get revenge, like trying to get a massive crew to go up. The police got hold of it. They canned all the special trains.
No.
Everything. So 4 of us went up in a car. We drove up there, got there late, got on the wrong side of the bloody ground from where West Ham were, where all the fans were. We ended up, we had to get seats, and we all agreed to keep quiet and and literally within a minute of being in there, these Geordies behind me going, "Oh, they're in the wrong seat. Oh, these Cockneys with that." And I went, "Excuse me, mate, have a look at that ticket number. What road's this? What seat's that? It ain't us who can't read, it's you, mob." And my mate goes, "Is that what you mean by being quiet and unobtrusive, Miles?" And all the mob down the front that are standing there were all looking at us. And the thing, we said, well, if we score, we keep it, sit down. It was 0-0, but anyway, there was a shot that went about a yard wide, and we were all 4 of us were up, like automatically. And we got chased after the game. We had to get to the car quickly and get out of there. But, oh, God. Yeah, the good old days, mate.
Good old days. You could chant at the Spurs fans and wouldn't get arrested like you do now. Let's look at the results today. Aston Villa won, Man City 0. Man City lost 3 games this year. They're 6 points off the top of the table. Do we get excited about this, or do we still think they're going to win 11 in a row in January, after January?
Well, they're quite capable of winning 11 in a row, but the... And you even saw Guardiola, I don't know if you saw it the other day, where he was saying, that it's phenomenal what we've done, 5 and 6, whatever it was. We got the treble last year. Eventually there's going to be a time when we're not doing it and we need the fans to be with us through those times. And I just wonder if he knew something that the fans didn't, that he could see the writing on the wall. And even a coach as good as he is, albeit the fact that he's always had the best cattle, to work with Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Man City with all their money, you've still got to do it. Many managers have had access to a lot of money and not done it. So, but even with him, it's got to come to a stage where the magic runs out for a little bit and he needs to move on. So he's been there a fair amount of time now. And other sides, Arsenal, they look like they had a slip, and now look at them, 2 points clear. They're 6 points above City. Even your mate, who are getting abused left, right and centre,
ridiculous.
You're only 3 points behind them.
I know, isn't that crazy? Just absolutely nuts. Man United sitting there in 6th spot. Aston Villa in the Champions League spot, lofty heights for them. Liverpool, I don't think they're sneaking up on anyone, but they're incredibly dangerous at the moment, aren't they? They just seem to be strolling through games, clocking up another win.
Well, I know. Well, actually, I mean, some of them very late as well, and you've got to feel sorry for Luton, like getting turned over in the last minute in a couple of games, just lately. Liverpool, I think they have sneaked up because I don't think any of us took them seriously. Thought, oh no, they've had their moment in the sun and they're on the way out. But you look at it, and there they are, second in the table, and still looking as good as ever. I think it's good. I mean, it's good for the Premier League to have a little bit now, especially with the likes of Villa and Newcastle up there. And even though I'm going to have to wash my mouth out of Tottenham,
Don't say it.
I can't stand them. They're going to turn West Ham over tomorrow morning. But Postecoglou, I love him, mate. The style of football that he plays is what fans pay money for. None of this negative, let's not give the ball away, keep possession. If you got the ball, try and get it in their net. Not fire a circuitous route, but knock it around, make runs, pass to each other in a forward direction. I mean, if you get to the byline, get the bloody ball into the box. Not your box.
That's it.
Their box.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. 5:05 on the text.
The Tide 5.
5 separate sporting topics, roughly a minute or so on each. And when the bell, that is the oral signal for us to move on to the next topic. Bangladesh Test Day 2 and Henry Nicholls. Well, poor old H, he can't buy a run at the moment, can he? And he seems to be the scapegoat for most people as to why the Black Caps are getting so seriously dealt to by Bangladesh. Premier League fixtures today, Aston Villa, cock-a-doodle-doo, 14 in a row at home. And that's the first time in 10 years they have beaten Man City. So up the Villa, you Villa fans. The in-house tournament that we have been following, Lachlan, as far as the NBA is concerned, and I saw a question on ESPN today, and I thought it is well worth debating as to whether or not, when it comes to players' legends and legacies, whether this tournament is going to be attached with the same importance to NBA championship wins. How utterly insane to even suggest it. Jitka Klimkova as the football Ferns coach. This is now beyond a joke. As well as that, Kurt Capel is coming to the Warriors, it seems. Let's kick it off with that because that's a brilliant story. This guy, big raps on him. We'll just go back to what Joel Gould was telling us. Earlier in the week, our man from AAP out of Brisbane.
Kurt Capel's in a situation where, and if you look at what the Broncos have done, they've got 3 second rowers off contract. They had 3 second rowers off contract 2 weeks ago. Now they've got 1. Kurt Capel. They've already re-signed their 2 younger guys, Pierre Kura and Ricky. Kurt would like to stay at the Broncos, he's told us in previous months. But, I mean, he also believes and don't forget he was a bit of a late bloomer when it comes to his NRL career. So he probably figures he's got 2 or 3, 4 possibly years left in him. We know that you've seen the photos. Your listeners have seen the photos of him touring the facility over there. Talking to Andrew Webster about whatever he was talking to him about. And Webster's very good at selling the vision and what he's doing there. I think he'd be a fantastic signing for the Warriors.
That was Joel, and he was at Dolphins training at the time, and you can hear, I mean, it's always Queensland, you can always hear those birds in the background, whatever squawky things they are. Anyway, this guy sounds like he's the real deal, Lachlan. Are you upset as a Broncos fan that he's leaving?
Yes and no. Yes, because I think we're losing a very steady, cool, experienced head in the team. I think he's a great organiser of the backline when it comes to defence. I think he's a very solid player. He's not a game-breaking player. He's a bit of a different sort of forward. He gets through his work really well. He's always there in support play. Reminds me a little bit of, I think Sam Cane does this a lot for the All Blacks. Whenever there's a guy making a break, there's always like someone there. Sam Cane's always there in support, I swear. Kurt Capel was a bit the same with the Broncos.
Sam Cane is one of the most underrated All Blacks of the last decade. He really has been a fabulous player, I do believe. And people have always questioned him because he just happened to come after one of the greatest ever. Yeah, Sir Richard.
Or soon to be Sir Richard. But the thing with the Broncos, like we've got some, and this has always been the case with this team. For as long as I've been a fan, we have so many really talented young players, and they always get poached and picked up by other teams, particularly the Titans. The Titans love taking our players. And we've got a couple of really good young second rowers, one of them mainly Brendan Pereira, who has been talked about as one of the next big things in the competition for years now. So I think, look, this is and Penrith went through this quite a bit. And when they were winning premierships, or they started winning premierships and making the grand final, and they're still sort of going through it to a degree, and we're going to go through it now, where when these really talented young players start to mature and become really good and hit that representative level of play, you've got to make some serious decisions as an organisation over who you keep and who you give money to. And like, because we have to re-sign Reece Walsh and Ezra Mam on big money deals. Absolutely. And so with that, and Brendan Pereira and Payne Haas with the money we gave him last year, and other guys who are going to be off contract soon, you've got to let some guys go. And sadly, Kurt Cape was one of them.
He is a hell of a gain for the Warriors.
To that, very good signing for the Warriors. Very good.
Bangladesh Test Day 2. We were talking just before the 2 o'clock news. Welcome to the show, people. If you've just joined us, Martin Devlin, Lachlan Moore, iOS, It's Only Sport. Trying to save this Test match, it seems the impossible ask, doesn't it? Henry Nicholls is everyone's convenient whipping boy when it comes to this 2-test series against Bangladesh. He didn't perform during the One Day World Cup. Look, he plays well in New Zealand on New Zealand pitches age, and he can't play bloody spin. And I mean, when do you get the opportunity to ever practice against it for a start? I'm not making excuses for the guy, but I expect more from Conway. I think he's the big failure of this series. 12, 22, 11 for an average of 15. And so I want to point the finger at him. He got a century against England to start with in the One Day World Cup, did nothing after that, right? So I think he's really disappointing. Latham has been in a hell of a slump. He's only averaging 8. He's got 0-4 in the last 2 knocks. Take out Kane and take out Mitch, and those 2 guys are rock solid. But Blundell, 6-6-0 for an average of 4. So it's not just Nicholls. That's what I'm saying. He's hopelessly out of his depth. And you know, we joked when we walked into the building today. I said, honestly, mate, he might as well take a toilet roll out with him. There's no point in carrying a bat out there against those Indian spinners. He doesn't know how to use it. And all that's going to happen is the ball's going to find an edge to it. He should go out there and just kick at it with his feet and block it with his pads and see how long he can bloody last. But, it's not like he's an absolutely hopeless player, because he's had a great test record here in New Zealand, but he's just hopeless on those pitches against spin. It's just shown him up, hasn't it?
Yeah. I feel a bit bad for him. I mean,
I don't want to hack into the dude.
No,
I actually like Henry. He's just hopeless.
I remember when he got into the test scene, he actually was a bit of a surprise elevation, wasn't he? And any time that his form's been a bit down and people have called into question whether he should be selected or not, he's always come out and had a knock and hit a century. It always seems to happen.
Mate, I call it the Craig McMillan. It used to happen to him as well. I remember, look, we were giving it to them hard from the terraces and on the basin back in the 90s. And I remember going to a press conference after him and Nathan Astrell both hit centuries against Zimbabwe. And just the defiance. If you guys, they were really aggressive towards the whole of the media contingent there. If you, and they'll stick it up.
Did you stand up and clap and say, well done, Zimbabwe?
Yeah, well, that's what I said. I was in the background, Zimbabwe, yeah, rock, lads, hard. Didn't actually get on with a lot of the cricketers at that stage because I was playing the music at the cricket.
Yeah,
Chris Cairns had come in and I'd play Get a Haircut, Get a Job. Rory came in and I played You're So Vain. Wasn't as popular with the players as it was with those paying spectators.
Yeah.
But, it's not your fault, Henry Nicholls.
No,
None of us can bloody bat,
You
mate.
brought
Come
up
on.
Conway, which is fair, because Conway had a sensational start to his test career. He had centuries in 3 of his first 6 tests. But he hasn't hit... I mean, he got a 78 against Sri Lanka earlier this year, and he got a 61 against England this year as well. But he's been average. Now, I saw someone, it's another sports media member, shall we say, put something on their Facebook page saying, Conway needs a rest, you can see it. Poor guy, let's give him a rest. And I thought... It's your job.
Get out there
playing
and play.
cricket.
Exactly.
There's people who don't get to call that a job and don't earn the money you do.
You play every few days, once every 3 weeks, mate. Premier League results. Talk quickly about Aston Villa and then on to your mob. 14 in a row at home. That's the best record in the Premier League. Hadn't beaten City in 10 years. 3rd in the table. Giddy heights. Go the Villa. I don't mind the Villa, actually. I've never really hated Aston Villa at all. I hate most clubs, but I don't hate Aston Villa.
Yeah, I don't either.
Because they're continuously shite. So I don't, but I respect the fact they're in 3rd spot at the moment. And beating Man City in any game of football, doesn't matter who Man City put out, because they put out 3 teams.
It is a fair achievement.
Cock-a-doodle-doo.
Yeah.
It absolutely is.
I've always actually liked Villa because I really liked Ashley Young before he signed with you guys. I was a really big fan of his. Yeah.
He's still playing.
I know, he's with
103.
Everton now, isn't he? Yeah. It's a sensational result for Aston Villa, and they've got a manager who's actually really good in Unai Emery, who took over from Stephen Gerrard last year, and as soon as he did, they started winning games.
Well, Gerrard was crap as a manager.
Well, he wasn't. Like, Emery's one of these proper tactical, smart managers.
Yes.
Gerrard clearly is not that. No, they're doing very well. I mean, the wheels will start to loosen at some point, I would think, because they just don't have the cattle to keep up with the other big teams. Then again, that relies on the other big teams actually playing well, which only 3 of them are doing. Well, 4 of them if you count Spurs are doing at the moment. And I mean, like Leicester City did this a couple of times over the last 4 or 5 years, where they're right there in second or third for a while, and they fall away at the end and fall out of the top
Brighton
4.
did it last year as
Brighton
well.
last year. Yeah, they were never really, I think, in second or third though, Brighton. No, sensational result. Great for Liverpool and Arsenal fans, because all of a sudden there's a bit of daylight.
Well, that's it. You
between
need a break,
City and us.
because we saw what happened. Arsenal had an 8-point lead on City last year and just couldn't keep that momentum alive.
Now, also,
but
by
I
the
think
way,
that Liverpool were the most dangerous team here, because last year you were rubbish. This year, because of last year, I don't think people have taken you that seriously. But you only lost 1 game all season.
We've lost 1 game.
1 game.
We're unbeaten in our last
easy.
6 or 7. Not easy. I mean, look, the Fulham game we were... Look, I mean, it's the whole mentality giant thing, and Fergie's teams did this a lot with you guys, where you score late winners, and that's impressive, but we shouldn't be shipping 3 goals at home.
You can't play well every game, mate.
You can't. Well, no, but we need to start having a couple of 3 or 4-0. Just quickly, by the way, City are winless in 4 league games in a row. 2 of those were at home against teams that, I mean, they're top 4 contending teams, but you should be beating. And now on the road against a team you absolutely should be.
Is this called a slump, is it?
Well, they've gone through mini slumps at times over the last 4 or 5 years, and then they go on a run of 15
That's exactly right.
But
okay.
I don't know if they've had a slump this long.
It's only 15 games. Talk to me after 25. We'll review it again. Yes or no, Jitka Klimkovic needs the sack. And
Now,
I'm not being mean about this. I'm talking about results, okay?
And big asterisks next to this, and I'm sure you'll agree with me. No one likes to call for someone else to be fired.
No, not
It's a
at all.
nasty thing to do.
Yeah, good
However,
point.
when it comes to sport, and it's not because you're bad, Jitka, you don't know what you're doing, you're rubbish, your team's rubbish. It's more about comparing it to other sports. It's comparing it to other teams who have records such as this in New Zealand and around the world. When you're at that point and a manager or a coach has been in that role for a couple of years, you get sacked for good reason, because you're simply not performing.
Not performing.
Same thing happens in radio. Many people lose their jobs because they're not performing when it comes to ratings. It's the same thing here. It's not that we don't like you, Jitka. It's not that we think that you're a terrible person and a terrible coach and whatnot, but you are clearly not up to standard. You are not
28
getting the best out of your
games
team.
in the last couple of years, and they've scored 11 goals. Okay, come on. I mean, come on, New Zealand.
Your
Come on, New Zealand.
time
Your
is
time
up.
has gone. Finally, then, and Simon Doull awaits, and we'll play some more. What has more chance of happening after we talk to Simon? The NBA in-season tournament, and the ESPN website today suggesting that perhaps this should be tagged alongside NBA championships eventually for players' legacies.
I'm not interested.
They're doing their very best to try and make this important, aren't they?
Well,
and look at your lot yesterday. LeBron and street clothes turned up and played like they wanted to win for a change. Why?
Yeah, Davis played well.
Because it's a big, shiny semi-final in Vegas this weekend.
Yeah,
do it every bloody night,
I tell
guys.
you what, we were lucky to win that game yesterday.
Yeah, but do it every night. You know, you're cheating your fans.
Well, I know, but this is what the modern NBA is.
That's what it is.
You happily lose games, or you only win a certain number because you want to peak at the right time, and that's all well and fine. But, you know, I'd like to see my team. Well, what happened to, you know, what the Bulls did in the 90s, what the Lakers did back in the 70s with Jerry West and Will Chamberlain. They won 68, 69 games.
That's right, and they played the same team every night.
Devlin,
Unbelievable. Incredible.
the platform.
The White Ferns, results underwhelming this year, just haven't kicked into gear. Disappointing at the T20 World Cup and just haven't produced. Like, I don't know, I expect this team to produce. I feel like they're getting the resources, they're getting the support, they're getting all the coverage, the positive publicity, just like the football Ferns, but when it comes to putting the results down, not doing. And losing twice to Pakistan. Well, Hannah Rowe joining us just to explain what's going on in the camp at the moment. What is the feeling? When is the ship going to be rewritten and how are they going to do it? Hannah, we've lost the series to Pakistan. What has gone wrong, essentially, in those first 2 T20s?
I think there's been a lot that we haven't done up to our standard, I think, in all facets of the game. I think we've been training the way we want to be training, but, like, we're just not taking that onto the field. So, yeah, it's been pretty disappointing.
Yeah, look, since the bronze medal at the Commonwealth Games, I hate to say it, but it's just the results have just been underwhelming all year. Do you talk about this amongst yourselves much?
Yeah, it's definitely something we are constantly talking about. Obviously, when we go out on the park to represent New Zealand, we're wanting to win every game. So, yeah, I think it's something as a group that we're really striving to get better at and making sure that we need to start these tours better than we currently are.
What do you put that down to then in terms of what is it just not playing enough cricket at the moment? Well, not playing enough cricket together? What is it?
I can't 100% pinpoint like the exact things it is. I think that one of the things is being able to adapt quickly to who we're playing and the conditions out there. I think probably we've been a little bit slow at changing maybe how we're wanting to play against certain players. But look, as a group now, we've just got to look forward to the next game and how we can win that and then go on and try and win this ODI series.
Sure. Hannah Rowe is with us, bowling all-rounder for White Ferns and CD. So what's the messaging from Ben? We had him on the program a week or so ago. What's he telling to you? What's he telling you guys?
Well, we have another team review today before training. I know it's going to be a big training with a focus on our fielding and making sure we're setting the standard there. I think the other thing is, just making sure that what we're showing as players in the nets is transferring onto the park. I think that there's no doubt from our group that the skills are there. It's just a matter of how can we be brave enough and confident enough to make sure we're using them when we go out on the park.
Hannah, what are the reviews like? I mean, I'm just sitting here as an adult thinking, you're sitting around a room or something. Do they play video highlights and stuff like that? It must be uncomfortable at times, but I suppose that's the point, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's something we've grown as a group in terms of being able to sit there and, I guess, watch the mistakes you've made, and it's just taking it from a factual perspective and saying, this is what happened, why did this happen, and how can we make sure that, I guess, it doesn't happen again, or that we're making smart cricketing decisions. It's never nice, obviously, watching either
of course it's
get hit
not.
the boundaries,
No.
I think you almost have to be able to learn about it.
And feel a bit of that, and I suppose especially, I mean, it makes it easy when you're around your peers and your mates and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, it's like anything when you get called out and the boss is telling you that, hey, you didn't do this wrong. It's not a great feeling, is it?
No, I don't think anyone enjoys that feeling. But yeah, we've got an analyst with us this tour, which we don't always have, which has been a cool addition. Just I guess adding their value and things that they've seen and what's been happening in the game. So yeah, the reviews are definitely necessary, as much as they might not be that nice sometimes.
In terms of the criticism or being criticised, do you welcome that? I had Sophie Devine on the show last year, and she was saying that, because Simon Doull is a great friend and a great guest of ours, and his attitude is, look, our women are professional players playing professional cricket, and therefore let's treat them exactly the same as the men. That means when you're going to cop it when things aren't going well, you're going to get a lot of praise when things are going well. Are you happy with that?
It's a tough question, I guess. I mean, it's like anything. You've got to accept the criticism that comes if you're making mistakes. Like you said, yeah, we are out there playing a professional sport, and we understand that if we're not performing to the ability that either the public expect, that we are going to be criticised. And it's not like we're not reflecting on it ourselves anyway. So yeah, I think for us it's more keeping within our group and talking to each other about what we need to work on and things like that. Trying not so much to let the outside noises interrupt what we're trying to do.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. Jason Costo Costigan. If you are a league fan in this country, well, you'll well remember this man's name and voice. He called the Warriors for well over a decade. He lives, breathes and loves rugby league. He's been on an epic worldwide journey, going to all kinds of places where you just wouldn't expect that sport to be played or be popular at all. Rugby league in Morocco? What? Come on, Costo. Costo, you're back, mate. Well, you're not back. You're overseas. I just keep following you around. I'm watching tourist videos of this of my favourite travel consultant going from country to country and just loving life at the moment.
Thanks, Marty. Well, it's a bit of a rugby league odyssey for me. It's a connection with family as well, from a personal point of view, but an opportunity to see parts of the world that I haven't been to before and have a good time.
Yeah, well, obviously the rugby league is tied into it, and I'm fascinated with everywhere you go, and you seem to be finding teams and countries and players and places that you wouldn't actually think that rugby league had any kind of footprint at all.
Well, one of those countries you're alluding to is Morocco. And for those people who don't follow us on the socials, Morocco's been playing rugby league since the mid-1990s. Hussein Mbaki was their pioneering player who played for what became the London Broncos. In fact, Hussein is a London Broncos Hall of Famer. He also spent time at some other English clubs. He came across from Union, as you'd appreciate. And he was a trailblazer who got Morocco up and running on the world scene in rugby league back in the mid-90s. And they played in the very first Mediterranean Cup final against Lebanon. Now, of course, Lebanon under Michael Cheika, who many of your 15-a-side followers will know through his work with Argentina, also coaches the Lebanese rugby league team. Well, Lebanon has gone on to the Rugby League World Cup finals under Cheika most recently, whereas Morocco has gone backwards, and now there's plans to try and rejuvenate the game. I've met with the president, Madam President of the Moroccan Rugby League Federation in the capital, Rabat. I actually went down to the south on the edge of the Sahara, where I caught up with local players and coaches in the city of Gulmim, which is the gateway to the desert, and also in the north, in the city of Nador, on the shores of the Mediterranean. So that's just one country where I went to recently, and that was on the back of going to South Africa, where, at the invitation of the South African Rugby League, I got to call Test Rugby League, International Rugby League against Kenya.
Costo, Madge Maguire given up, well, he had to, the Kiwi job to do Origin. And this is, you can point your finger straight back at New Zealand Rugby League, who pretty much gave him an ultimatum, and there was no compromise there at all. It's been a big topic of debate here, as you can imagine. New Zealand Rugby League citing conflicts of interest, all kinds of different excuses. Look, it's been done in the past where we've had coaches who've coached, and including Madge, a club as well as country. What is the difference, and should there be a difference, and could he have done both jobs, in your opinion?
Look, I'm not going to come on your program, and you know me as good as anybody by now. I would have thought I'm not one to sit on the fence. But I will say this. It's not my job to lecture the New Zealand Rugby League and Greg Peters and the board as to what they should have done with Madge. I got a big opinion on Madge. I thought what he did with the Kiwis was phenomenal. It's disappointing it's turned out this way. Whether he gets burnt by the Blues in State of Origin, that remains to be seen. I tell you what, there's plenty of people that would probably have liked to have seen him personally and professionally do both jobs. I didn't have a problem with him doing both jobs, but I'm not on the board of the NZRL. If you go and ask someone like Graham Lowe, how many hats, how many balls did he used to juggle as a coach?
Well, great news, though, yesterday that two of our players, Georgia Halle and also James Fisher-Harris, are players of the International Players of the Year. Wonderful honours and also good reward for, obviously, match-winning performances.
Oh, for sure. And Fisher-Harris deserves all those plaudits that have come his way. And it's a feel-good story from a little town in the Northland. And I've spent some time up there over the years. In fact, going right up, one of the great memories I have in my decade calling for Sky Television was seeing sunset at Cape Reinga on my own.
Beautiful.
It was a magical moment.
You can't get romantic on your own, Costa. I've seen your videos on you. You're a man of the world's finery is what you are. You imbibe and you joy. You can't sit there on your own. You've got to have somebody to hold hands with.
Well, it was just me on my own. I've got to say, that was a long time ago. But I've been up in that Northland, to Kerry and places like that, Kaiatai. Wonderful people, beautiful scenery, great part of the world. And that's, of course, the home province of the man you're referring to who won the IRL Golden Boot Award. Now, some unbelievable players, including the King, Wally Lewis, Peter Sterling and other luminaries have won the Golden Boot. There has been some controversy in terms of who should have won it, who could have won it, who was eligible to win it, how they got the votes. there probably does need to be some work done around that, but you do have to take your hat off to the IRL with no resources, very limited resources, if anything, the flat-out rubbing, two bob together, yet they keep this award going that's been going a long time. And here's this player who's had a big year, finishing with a bang. I say well done to him and also to Georgia too with the ladies. I think it was plenty to crow about at the end of the season for New Zealand Rugby League.
That's our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to the entire show 1 till 4 Monday to Friday, download the Platform app, and via Platform Plus you can go back and listen to whatever shows over however many weeks at your leisure, at your listening pleasure. Platform Plus. First thing to do though is download the Platform app.
Devlin.
That is a disgusting act.
The Platform.